Greetings once again, or for some of you, maybe for the first time ever. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me today is a first-time guest to the channel. We're going to be talking some football. He's got a Tom Brady jersey. I've got a Jaden Daniels shirt. We're going to jump right in. Please welcome to the channel, Sam McMahan!
What's going on, Jared?
Oh, man, I am having such a great day. Good to see you as well. Some people might refer to him as Sam the Man McMahon.
Most people do.
Yeah, so I kind of missed that opportunity there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Would my producing partner, Chris Black, agree with that? Chris and Sam have been friends for several years now.
Jealousy doesn't sit too well, but that's okay.
Oh, is that right? That's not a good color on him, is what you're saying? So I actually recently met Sam through Chris, actually. We're going to be talking about some fantasy football today. I just did fantasy football for the first time in 2023. 2024, I was in 16 different leagues. This year so far, it was a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
I was in 16 leagues, won 3 championships. A lot of people tell me, man, that's great. And I'm like, but is it mathematically?
That's the law of large numbers, right?
Yeah, that's what I was like. It sounds great. I won 3 championships in 1 year. But to be fair, I was in 16 leagues. I'll take it, though. It's still...
Hey, it's better than losing.
It's better than not winning any in 16 leagues.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm in 4 dynasties and 2 other ESPN leagues. So we'll see how out of control I get with it this year by the time the season starts. But Sam's had a lot more years of playing fantasy. How many years have you been doing it now?
I've been doing this since about 1990. My very first draft pick was Jerry Rice.
Man.
My very first draft was at Beltline Station in Irving that no longer even exists.
For those of you that don't know, 1990... we didn't have this thing that we now call the internet.
No, we did not.
So what was that like? Like, I can't even imagine. What was it like drafting and participating in a season in a world where the internet didn't exist?
You know, I bought magazines after magazines. You can still buy magazines now, but there's no point. All it is a waste of money because you can get all that same information now on the internet.
Okay.
But I bought probably 2 or 3 different magazines, read through every player profile. I couldn't tell you how much time on the toilet I spent reading about fantasy football and where people need to go, what the strategies were.
So it wasn't just football; it was fantasy football magazine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I absorbed it all.
Yeah,
but
you need to know the actual game to be good at.
Absolutely, and I learned that pretty quick.
Yeah.
So and then. When I joined the league that your producer's in, Chris, I actually scored the leagues by newspaper. Every Monday and Sunday and Monday, I would buy the newspaper, go through the box scores and score everything, and then we would deliver the scores to somebody's house for everybody to drive and pick up.
My goodness, that is commitment. Like, that is time consuming. People today,
it's crazy,
myself included, I go on ESPN, I go on Sleeper, I join a league. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do all that.
No.
Like, you have to really want to be in that league to do everything you just said.
Yeah. And what's crazy, in 1997 or 8, I approached a buddy. This was right when the internet was really starting to kick in, and some fantasy football was out there, but not a whole lot.
Not like it is now.
No, not at all. And I told him, dude, there's a lot of money in this. We should try to figure out how to develop our own fantasy football sites and stuff. We'd be rich. And
how did that
I actually taught myself HTML.
Okay, really?
To do this.
Okay.
And then I built a few just kind of goofy sites on these free page builder sites like Angel Fire, if anybody even remembers.
I actually do remember that. Yeah. Some of our audience is probably like, what are y'all talking about?
I know. I
actually
I'm only 50. I'm not 85 or anything. But there's just too much dynamic stuff going on with all that stuff. I just wasn't able to put it together. So
wow, that would have been really cool though. I could see where you thought like, hey, let's develop something like this.
It would have been fun.
Interesting. Okay, so when the internet came along, I'm sure it was a game changer, obviously for the better, but was it a hard adjustment? Was it a hard transition because y'all had gotten so accustomed to the way you'd been doing it?
You know, it's a two-prong answer.
Mm,
From a strategy standpoint, the people who are early adopters of the internet had a leg up on everybody else.
yes.
So my dad got the internet, and we were just kind of nerds and stuff and doing all that. And so I think it felt like I had more access, or at least knew how to use it earlier than a lot of
Okay.
people. So from that point, the adjustment was good because I excelled. But as everybody
With a spreadsheet or a different kind of Excel?
no excelled. No VLOOKUPs
Oh,
or pivot
okay,
tables.
okay.
Yeah. No, so as people started kind of adopting and just kind of transitioning to the new age that we were in, my success kind of dwindled because we're all starting to get on the same level playing field.
Mhm.
So from that perspective, it was hard. From a league perspective, it was actually really easy. It was really more about just kind of understanding the capabilities of kind of moving everything to a website, and it was nice because now no longer you didn't have to store all your information, worried about losing the
Like keeping
file.
notebooks
Oh yeah,
of information. I
oh yeah.
imagine you had to keep very detailed, like just pages and pages and pages of stuff, right?
Uh,
I would think.
Not really. I mean, whenever I was scoring everything, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I mean. You had to
and
do.
yeah, and you know, when you're looking at a box score, it's really hard to kind of figure out every little bonus and how does this number that had like 89 yards. Okay, that's only 8 points and not 9 points because they didn't get to 90 and all that fun
Yeah,
stuff.
but you scored as 8.9, and
Yeah. No, and see, we had no partial points or anything like that.
Oh, so it was just 8.
It was
So
8.
89 was no more use than 80.
Yep.
And then a touchdown is 6 points, and you're factoring all of this, and
you know, say a defensive touchdown, somebody returns a fumble on a kickoff or something like that, that counts against, you know, does that count against your defense? Does it not? Sometimes I'd get it wrong. I'd get calls in the middle of the night. Hey man, you got my score wrong. So we'd have to adjust everything, see if it messed with the standings.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was Wild West, man. It was cool.
I like how you describe all the headache, and then it was cool.
It was so awesome. We would call into one of our buddies' house, leave a message with our lineups.
Man, and you got to hope that they record that properly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
And
because that could affect a whole season.
Yeah.
If you meant to start Jerry Rice and they put somebody else or whatever.
Say there's a bye week and you called, you know, I think I think the cutoff time might have been 6 p.m. on Thursday. If you called at 7, you just had to hope it was accepted.
Man.
And if not, well, you're kind of
too bad. Your lineup is all, like you're going to get destroyed this week.
So sad. Yeah.
Wow.
It was cool. It was fun.
Sounds invigorating.
Yeah, it was great. The good old days.
Honestly, though, if you're in the league with a bunch of people that you enjoy doing it with, I'm sure it was a lot of fun.
It was just, there's a reason.
Like I said, there's a lot of commitment. Okay. Yeah. So from that original league, other than you and Chris Black, how many original members are there?
I'd have to do the count. Just off the top without kind of wasting time, I'd say there's about 5 or 6 left.
That's actually really good sustainability.
Yeah.
For that many years.
5 or 6 left. There's a hard. How many are still in the waffle from when we were started? No. From like me, you, John, David, Josh.
I am the only original.
From the original, right? But from when I joined.
When you joined, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's 2 different answers. I didn't even realize that. So you're the only.
Started in 1990. I'm the only one left.
Yep.
But,
okay.
But of what we have now, it's probably like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's 5.
Okay.
And I before I joined, I was the auctioneer for the very first auction.
Okay.
And Ricky Waters was the very first player picked for $25, and everybody flipped out like, "Oh my gosh!"
Wow. What was the
salary cap
for that?
300. It's always been 300.
And $25 seemed like a lot
because no one knew.
I guess you just don't know what to. Yeah.
No one knew what to expect.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a good transition actually, because I did one salary cap league last year, and I've done one so far this year. The 2 I was in were just through ESPN. I had $200 salaries.
Okay.
So the one I was in last year, it was all $200. I was initially willing to go 90 to 100 maybe for the right player, maybe.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
it changed in the draft.
Yeah, that's how
I watched the first two off the board, and I didn't know these people were just people I joined online.
Right.
I saw two different idiots pay $185 for one player.
Yeah.
Somebody spent 185 on Christian McCaffrey. Somebody else spent 185 on Tyreek Hill. Those two teams finished they were the bottom two of the league because McCaffrey missed almost the whole season. Tyreek's numbers were down because Tagliabue Ravioli was injured. And I was sitting there watching it going, you people are out of your minds.
Right.
You got $15 left. They had to spend $1 per player for the rest of their roster. I was like, go ahead. You can have Christian McCaffrey. So then I kept watching, and there were some other guys I wanted to, but I was like, okay. But then Jamar R. Pursued Diligently and Sedarian DeLeon Lamb both went for like 100 to 110. So then I was like, y'all are out of your mind. I'm going to budget. So I was like, I'm just going to sit and wait. And then I was like, I'm not going to spend over $50. Now, I ended up bending a little bit on that as I went. Yeah. But the most I paid for anybody was $55 for Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
I got Justin Jefferson for $55 when somebody else paid $185 for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I got Kyron Williams for $45. I got Kenneth Walker III for $21. He did have some injuries, but I also got Devon Achahani for like $15. I got James Conner for like $10 or $11. So I actually went to the championship and lost in the championship. But I didn't pay more than $55 for one player. And in the regular season, I was destroying these other teams. Like I had the best record. I lost in the last week because in the season finale in the regular NFL, Justin Jefferson didn't do much at all against Detroit. Like if he had even done close to his normal, because I lost the championship by like 10 to 14 points. And it came down to that last game. And I was like, if Jefferson has even a normal game, I'm going to win. And that's what, ironically, one of the best players in the league cost me a championship. But I did win 3 other leagues. So I wasn't totally destroyed. But point being, I was like, I'm not paying that amount.
No.
I just was like, there's no way with the two. And then the one I'm in this year, I went a little more aggressive, but I still got a pretty good team. I spent 62 on Pursue Diligently and like 58 on Jefferson.
Okay.
So I spent most of it on those two, but I still was like, if I can get those two receivers, I will play anybody in the league. I'm pretty comfortable. And I spent a big chunk, but then I still got like Kyler Murray for $11. Like no other like huge stars, but I still got, no, it wasn't Kyler Murray. I got Justin Fields and Jared Goff for like a total of $4 because I waited it out and still got two starting quarterbacks.
That's how
that's how I like to slice those up.
That's how you do it. When you join those online leagues, there are going to be those knuckleheads. You just kind of blow. They're going to blow the draft out the water doing those kind of things.
Yes.
So you just kind of weather the storm. You just kind of let those chips fall.
A lot of sitting and watching and going, nope, I wouldn't have paid that much.
Yeah, and then you're sitting here with all this money to get all these players, and so we've never really had that kind of experience. People like that just like to be goofy and silly, because they don't have skin in the game. If they had skin in the game,
I hope you'd be smarter about it. Yeah,
completely different story.
Well, then the way I did it both years, I was able to sit back and wait and outbid people near the end. I was like, "There's somebody I want. I can go $1 higher than you and get kind of who I want of whoever's left." And so I did a lot of that. So who, if you can recall, of all your years doing it, because y'all have always done auction, right?
Since I've been there, yes.
Okay. What's the highest amount you've ever paid for one player?
That I've ever paid? I don't think I've ever crossed the $100 mark.
Okay. It's always
I've
300, right?
Yeah, it's a 300 cap.
Wow. So you could spend over 100 and still be pretty safe.
You can't. You have to be smart. The very first $100 player I know who took them, guy named David Jones. I think it was Brett Favre, but it might have been Marshall Faulk. It was one of those two.
Honestly, in their prime, I could see somebody paying $100 for either one of them.
I think it was.
I
Faulk.
could
paying $100 to a running back,
Right. Right.
I could see that though. They're both.
And I mean, there's just certain picks that I remember that just kind of stick in my mind. The Faulk over 100 or reaching 100. I think he was straight at $100.
Okay.
I remember Byron Bill picking Edgerrin James as a rookie for $70, and everybody flipped out and ended up having a really good year.
I was gonna say that actually paid off though.
It paid off.
I could see the thinking it was too much a risk, but
Yeah. And then we had a guy join the league who I don't know why he did this. We know in our league, defenses are
I think
underrated.
Chris told me about this. But go ahead.
Defenses are underrated, but you don't have to pay for them.
You can usually
pay
get
a
any
little
defense in the league for $1 or $2.
Yeah.
The leagues, the
Yeah,
ones
yeah.
I've done.
And I mean, if you get one of the top stud defenses, it might be around $10, maybe $11.
If that, yeah.
This guy, I even remember the room we were in. He called out the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense for $30, and it was nothing but crickets. Everybody just
Chris told me that last year,
Yeah,
and I just looked at him. I was like, "Who would do that?
yeah. Oh, it was hilarious. And you
There's
just,
no
you
chance."
saw the blood drain from the guy's face. Like
Everybody's like,
What
"You
did
go
I-
ahead, you can have them."
yeah.
I would have been if I thought he would have fallen for it. I might have been tempted to go 31 just to see how he would go. But then I wouldn't want to get stuck with him, so I wouldn't
That's
have done it.
That's the deal.
But
That's the deal with auction drafts. There's two different strategies.
mhm.
You have to understand kind of how you want to allocate your dollars.
Oh yeah,
Okay. But do you want depth on your team?
right.
Or do you want to throw all your money in your lineup and just pray they stay healthy and get lucky on the free agent market?
Because just like the two teams I talked about last year, McCaffrey got hurt.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill's quarterback got hurt. That was went their season.
Season's over. And,
I mean,
it
what-
wouldn't have mattered anyway because you spend that much money, you just have nothing left.
Yeah. Well, one of them got Dak Prescott for $1 near the end, but then he got hurt. But if he stays healthy, $1's a good investment. Like, he's a good
but
enough
it's
quarterback.
Dak. It's Dak.
No, it is. I'm not saying that was the greatest, but still, they were lucky to get him for $1. I think is really what I was looking at. But
Right.
but yeah, there's no. I could not even believe when I saw the prices keep going up on
Yeah.
those two, and I was like, I like Christian McCaffrey too, but y'all can have him. I'm not paying that much.
The hard part too with doing auction leagues online is if anybody doesn't join the draft,
Mhm.
the computer is essentially going to price enforce. So if
Oh,
so
yeah, I see what you mean.
so if Jefferson his value on the site is $68, the computer will make sure it gets to $68. So you at least and you ruin the human element.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't think about that, but
So it's always going to price enforce. So that's why when I do online drafts and stuff like that, I won't do auction unless I'm just kind of prepping just to kind of see what the real people are actually going for.
yeah, I'll do several mock. That's actually another thing. I'll do several mock drafts each year,
Yeah.
both snake style and auction, just to get a feel for okay when I'm actually drafting. I'll throw out a random. Can I wait for the 5th round if I really want Kenneth Walker III?
Right,
If he's going to be my RB2, can I do that? Do I have to jump in the 4th and get him? Like I did so many mock drafts last year before my 16
Sleeper?
leagues.
On Sleeper?
ESPN and Sleeper.
Okay.
I'll do back and forth, and I'm like, I knew in most of my leagues I can get certain players at certain places. I pretty much. And last year, I got Jaden Daniels in the 10th round. You can't do that now.
No.
But as a
gosh.
rookie, I got him in the 10th round in a couple of my leagues. And my goodness, was I happy
Game
that
over.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Those are the types of picks, no matter what format you use, those are the picks that win the league.
yeah.
We kind of talked about this, when we met. You don't win your league in your first 3 rounds.
Right. Because any idiot that knows anything about football should get 3 great players in the first 3 rounds.
As long as they're healthy.
Yes.
You're not going to win your league in those rounds.
You win by who you draft in rounds 8 through 16 most of the time because that's how you build your depth. And like you said, injuries, bye weeks. You just want to have there's a flex position. If you don't draft just as strong in those weeks,
Yep.
forget it. Like you
100%.
really don't stand a chance.
Yeah, you're just. I can't tell you how many times I've had really good picks in those first 3 rounds on paper.
Mhm.
Somebody gets hurt, and then my season's shot. So I'd say you don't win those first 3 rounds from the first 3 rounds. You lose in those.
You
First 3
can
rounds.
lose, and that's a great way to put it. And I know last year, and I'll probably forget some, but rounds 8 through 16 in various different leagues,
Mhm.
I was able to get some guys like James Conner, David Montgomery,
Mhm.
and Jigba. Gosh, who
Guys
else did I
that are going in
get?
the first 3 rounds.
Guys,
this
yes,
year.
guys that are going in, and then quarterbacks. My gosh, I got Baker Mayfield in the 15th round in the 16-round draft last year.
Yeah.
I got Justin Herbert in the 16th round last year. There was you could pick. I got Kyler Murray in like the 12th round. You can get some quarterbacks that can genuinely make. I got Jared Goff one time in like the 15th round. He averaged 19 fantasy points a
Yeah.
game last year. So I was like, you can, if you are strategic and you pay attention to the board, yeah, you can get plenty of firepower in those late rounds.
People say fantasy football is all luck, and yes, there's a luck component to it.
There are things you
Ab-
can't
ab-
control, but
It is not pure gambling. There is a strategy to make sure that you give yourself the best chance of being
yes,
successful.
because there's things you can control and things you can't. I don't know if there's any one perfect strategy. I even last year, just toying around, I did one league where I drafted nothing but receivers for 5 rounds and see what running backs I could get. I did another league where I drafted running backs for the first five rounds to see what receivers I could get. I did one league where I didn't take a quarterback until rounds 15 and 16. I played around with a lot of different things just to see what would happen. And I had similar results. And so that's why I was like, it depend on who you pick in those rounds. There's not necessarily a perfect strategy. I don't think.
No, there's not, and your strategy needs to change based on the number of people in the league too. There's a vast difference between drafting in a 10-team league and a 12-team league.
See, I've never done 12-team. I believe I definitely take your word for it. Every league I've been in so far has been 10-team.
We got to get this guy on the waffle, man.
Let me know. I'm not gonna pay. Well, 300. I'll pay 100 for some players. It just depends. We'll see.
Yeah.
See, I haven't had a $300 budget yet. I've always had only 200.
But it depends on the value relative to everybody else.
That's true too. Yeah.
So right now, honestly, I have a list of kind of people that I think are going to be really good, and we can talk about some of this later. But if somebody's so far and away that they're better than everybody else at that position, okay,
right.
Perfect example. If you're playing in an IDP league,
yes,
okay, and you have Travis Hunter, okay, let's just say he's everything that they say he's gonna be. You've got a receiver.
You've got stats on both sides of the ball,
on both sides,
to count for your team.
Right. And
he's at gold mine in IDP leagues, I would think.
So I've never done IDP. I won't do IDP.
Oh, I did one last year. It was not my favorite. I went ahead and stuck it out, but it had offense and defense, and it was frustrating because there were a lot of players I missed on because I had to balance my defense, and I had some really good defensive players. I had Will Anderson Jr., Myles Garrett, Patrick Surtain, TJ Watt. Like, I had some really good players, but I just didn't like having to strategize and go.
Yeah.
I'd really like this receiver, but Myles Garrett's on the board. I can't. If I pass on him, he's not going to be available. So I didn't. It was not my favorite experience. So I did it okay, I've done it now.
See, that's more than I have. I've just looked at it and kind of considered all the different moving parts. I just don't want to dive into that.
I would advise it was not the most enjoyable of the 16 leagues I was in last year. That one was the one I enjoyed the least. I kept up with it. I took it seriously, but I was like, this is just, I don't like having to. Now, watching football, I love defense.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But,
absolutely.
yeah, I didn't care to have to balance all of that. It just wasn't quite as fun.
No, and I mean, that's understanding how to structure your team, where the different value breaks are in between the different positions and stuff. There is it's an analytical strategy. It's not just about knowing football. There's an analytical strategy to it. And,
Yeah.
and the people who just pick willy nilly, you can hit lightning in a bottle. You get the right free
You
agent.
can.
But
Yeah.
the people who have that strategy down on kind of where are the talent breaks within all the different positions. I may is, do I want David Montgomery or do I want Jackson Smith and Jigba? Okay, well, similarly talented guys. Well, if you're looking at the running back board, the running backs are a whole lot lighter than the receivers.
You
Montgomery
might want to go ahead and grab Montgomery.
probably is the better
Yeah.
bet, all things being.
And I would also say this: if you've already got, let's say Justin Jefferson and Drake London, one of Chris's favorites, if you've already got those two guys, you could pass on Njigba because you've already got, and you might need Montgomery might be more valuable to you in that.
Unless you've got a sleeper in mind at running back you think is going to kind of step up.
That's true
and
too.
that's the whole strategy thing. That's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah.
Kind of understanding, okay, Bucky Irving last year came out of nowhere to most people.
Yes.
To most people. There was enough noise about him. So if he was your guy,
if he was on the board rounds 12 or later,
sure. Right.
He's
just throw a dart.
Well worth grabbing.
Throw a dart and see what happens. But if he's a guy that you're counting on, okay, I'm going to gamble here. And this is where the gambling thing takes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take Njigba. And I'll kind of sneak Bucky in later on. The people who
you
did
could
that.
probably do that. And the ones that did were very thankful for having done so. Yeah, 100%. I had a similar thing to that. And this will be actually a good segue. I think I mentioned earlier, I'm in 4 Dynasty leagues right now. My first Dynasty that I was in last year, I drafted some guys that are competitive now, but I was really looking for the future. So my first 3 rounds, I took Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jaden Daniels. There's no way you're getting Jaden in a Dynasty in the 3rd round now. No. But I was fortunate enough to get him. So I've got those 3 guys, and I was like, I am so happy to have those. Yeah, I didn't know if it's going to work. But I was like, let me just see. And man, I'm so happy. And if he, I'm not trading those. Those are my guys. They're locked.
You're going.
The rest of my roster is negotiable, but not those 3.
You're going to be competitive every year, though. That course.
And I finished 3rd in that Dynasty last year, even though I prioritized the future. So I was pretty happy. But in that league, I knew that anybody can get injured. So late in that draft, I took Elijah Mitchell in the 23rd round.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
How many rounds?
It was a 26-round draft.
Oh, my God. Wow.
So my last 5 or 6 picks were Alexander Madison, Taysom Hill, Elijah Mitchell, guys that I was like, they're worth having on a roster.
Okay.
When you got that many picks.
10-team league?
10-team league.
Okay.
26 rounds. So I took Elijah Mitchell. He then had a hamstring injury right before the season started. Because the reason I drafted him was if McCaffrey gets hurt, he's now their lead running back in a great offense. Well, he had an hamstring injury right before the season. So I put him on my injured reserve, picked up Jordan Mason, which nobody knew about, but I was like, I know he's their next guy.
Yeah.
Well, that turned out pretty darn well for me. And I've still got Jordan Mason. They're both, he and Elijah Mitchell are both still on my roster this year. I held on to Elijah because now he's on the Chiefs. And I was like, what if he ends up if Pacheco's not all the way healthy?
What if Elijah get a chance?
Yeah, he'll get an opportunity. So he's still on my roster as of right now. And so is Jordan Mason. So anyway, things like that, you just never know. So speaking of, I actually strongly prefer Dynasty. I think it feels more like actual football. You got to strategize. You got to look ahead to the future.
That's true.
And just to give you an example, in one of my leagues just this past week, I joined this league a few months ago, but I picked up what's called an orphan team, which means somebody else had this team last year, and I joined the league. Well, I've made a lot of, you could say, risky trades because I'm just trying to revamp my roster.
Right.
And I don't really care if I win much this year or not because I'm trying to build a team. So just this past week, and somebody in the league commented in the chat about how this made 0 sense what I did. I didn't respond. I don't know these guys. Doesn't matter. But I traded Georgi Kittle and Mark Andrews.
Okay.
In exchange for Tucker Kraft, Isaiah Likely, and a 26th third. That may sound like a big risk because the guy that commented was like, That's 0 cents. You trade 2 top 10 tight ends for Kraft. And I didn't comment back, but my mindset was some people play checkers, some people play chess. Like, I see the logic of saying it made no sense, but my looking at it was I just traded 2 tight ends that are 29 and 31 for 2 tight ends that are 25 and 24, and I got draft capital. So in a few years,
Who proposed the trade?
I did.
Okay.
Because I wanted to, and I'll tell you what, Kittle's still great, don't get me wrong, but I was like, I want to capitalize while I can, and Andrews is already showing signs of slowing down in injuries. I'm interested on your thoughts because it looks like you think it wasn't a good move, and that's okay. There's risk involved.
Every move is when people gripe about those kind of trades,
Mm-hmm.
they're griping because in the context of what's happening there, it makes no sense. I don't know the full context of everything. In a vacuum, no, I don't think it's a good deal. But if you're not competitive anyway.
Right, and that's the whole reason.
But that said, this reminds me, I hate to bring this comparison because it breaks my heart to bring it up. Reminds me a little bit of the Luka trade where you could have gotten much more.
I maybe could have.
I mean,
that's hard to say.
If I'm not going to argue with your thought process.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to be competitive, I have no problem dumping your chips to kind of load up.
That's exactly what my thought was.
If you're happy with what you're getting, okay.
Yeah.
I think you could have gotten more.
I maybe could have. That's hard to say because those guys are aging. Right. So it depends on how everybody looks at it.
Aging.
It depends. It really does.
It depends on the opportunity. I mean, Kittle, I've never had Kittle on any of my teams.
Okay.
Not that he's not good, but I never trust him to stay healthy.
And that's another thing. Yeah.
You know,
he was great last year.
He was.
But that was part of my thought was if he's not as good this year, I won't be able to get as much next year. So I was like, right now, while he's one of the top 3 tight ends,
that's the deal.
That's why and that's exactly why I struck that. I was like, I looked at, and here's the thing too, I looked at all the rosters because this is what you got to consider too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was like, I want to get, if I can, 2 young tight ends in return. So I actually sent multiple trades out to other teams. This is the guy that accepted. I was like, let me just throw some things out.
Right.
The guy who accepted it had on his roster Isaiah Likely, Tucker Kraft, Cole Kermit, Tyler Warren, and somebody else. He had a bunch. So I was like, I might could talk him into giving me 2 young tight ends and a 3rd round pick.
Sure.
So that's what worked. I think I tried to get Brock Bowers at one point. I knew it wasn't going to work, but I was like, let me just see. I knew there was no chance, but again, I was like, who knows what that guy. So I tried a few other things to try to get some young guys and just, again, capitalize on the veterans while they've got trade value was my whole thinking. And I took over this team. I don't care if I win this year or not because this is my first year building it. So that was my whole thing. If I cared about winning right now, that would have been a dumb move.
So how did you target the guy? Did you just say I like these players, or did you go after somebody who thinks that they're in a position to win? And because it goes back to kind of trade philosophy. And when I say I think you could have gotten more, I don't know if you did this or not, but when I make a trade, and it's easier to make. First off, it's easier to make a trade in a league where you don't know people.
Oftentimes, yes.
Because in a league where you do, everybody thinks you're out to mess each other.
Yes. You know, there's a lot of paranoia of why you're doing this.
Absolutely. And some of it's warranted, I guess, sometimes, but nobody wants to know that we got they got the better of you.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But whenever you make a trade in any kind of league, what I try to do is target the people who are, if I'm in your position of kind of dumping, I'm targeting the teams that are right on the cusp of winning, and this is going to make the difference.
So to answer that question, I had the same thought. This guy finished 2nd in the league last year.
Okay, then it was.
So that's another reason.
A good target.
I sent another trade to the guy that finished 1st. I think he had Brenton Strange, and I tried to get Strange and a couple of picks. So I tried that same strategy with the number 1 team, the number 2 team, and like maybe the 3 or 4 team. This was the guy that bit. So I was like, So no, that's a great point, and I did think that because I was like, if I'm going to try to get draft capital, I'm going to target the teams that might get high draft picks next year. But in this
Yeah,
scenario,
yeah.
I was like, if I can get tight ends, if I can entice him with two guys, he's already number 2 in the league. So that actually played a big part into my thinking.
And that's, I know the question you're going to ask is whether I like Dynasty or not, and that's part of the reason I don't.
Okay, because that's what I wanted to get you. To me, it's more fun. So what is it specifically? You just don't like all the trading and the draft picks?
I love trades. I love trades. No issue with that. That's the part that actually is the most enticing part of being in a dynasty. If you're not going to make trades and all that stuff, what's the point?
True.
In those kinds of leagues, I like to play knowing that every year, everyone is on the table.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, I don't necessarily like keeper leagues. I've won my share.
Yeah, I've never done those yet.
I've won my share, but dynasty leagues. So you're drafting all these rookies, kind of mixing them in with the rest of your draft and everything. And just like the NFL, you could draft. You took Jaden Daniels in the 3rd round, I think you said.
Yeah, last year.
Well, you could have also, if someone else took him, hit gold, or maybe someone takes Cam Ward this year first, and he just absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. So just say he sucks, and he doesn't turn into a really good player. He turns into Gus Farad or something like that. Okay. You've wasted all this time, all this capital. I don't want that.
And now you're stuck with him.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I understand the appeal.
Yeah.
But I like to know that I have hope every year instead of trying to build something up.
Okay, that makes sense. I do like Dynasty, but that makes sense. Every year you're like, I missed on Jaden Daniels last year.
Mm-hmm.
I can get him next year.
I'm
gonna
have to pay
spend
for
a little more.
Yeah.
But okay, there's an appeal to that too. And that's why I'm also in a salary cap league this year, in addition to my 4 dynasties, because I can see the appeal in that
now
as well.
I would actually, and this can't talk, contradicts everything I just said.
Okay. So pay close attention.
I would almost consider an auction dynasty league. The reason being,
I haven't done one of those.
I don't even know if they exist.
I was just saying,
sure they exist somewhere.
Maybe they do.
But I want to be able to outsmart people and out strategize people, because that's the appeal of an auction versus a snake draft.
Yeah.
There's a lot more strategy to it. I trust my thought process, because whenever you have a snake draft, everybody knows who the top picks are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a matter of, okay, is someone stupid to skip over? They think they're going to skip over, Njigba for, Isaiah Likely or, something like that.
Right.
Because they think that Likely's going to, who knows? But I trust that I can manage that whole process better than most. And I could make myself competitive. What I don't want to do, like you did, was join an orphan league or join an orphan team, take over one that now you kind of have to build that from scratch. If I'm going to do something like that, we're all starting from scratch.
Yeah, it was the only reason I did it, because I've already was in a couple of the dynasties. I was like, you know what? Let me just see how challenging this is. Yeah. Maybe I'll be terrible at it. Maybe I won't be able to rebuild this team, but what the heck? Let me just see.
Right.
It's one of those things where I was just like, let me see how complex this puzzle will be.
And my ego and my heart could not handle trading somebody, say trading Brock Bowers for, Travis Kelce. Okay. Hey, I really got to win this year. No one thought Bowers was going to do a lot this year. No one. If he did, you're lying. Okay. And people didn't necessarily think that Kelce was the top tight end anymore, but 90% of people would have taken that kind of trade if you think you're going to win.
Oh yeah, because Kelsey's got the track record.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
and I could not handle being the guy who traded Bowers away. I couldn't. I would rue the day every time, and this guy right here would let me know about it every time.
Oh, he wouldn't let you forget that. I'm quite sure. All right, so
just want to make sure everybody's informed.
You got to make sure everybody's on the right page, right?
Appreciate that.
All right, so kind of as we're preparing maybe to land the plane, looking to the 2025 season.
Mhm.
Now, what I'm about to say, we're not talking Dynasty because it's a whole different strategy.
Absolutely.
For, let's say, a 10-team league,
Okay.
I've got 10 guys that I would say I think probably are good first round picks.
Okay.
I guess in auction, there's no round, so I'm talking snake draft.
Mhm.
But even in auction, maybe the 10 kind of top value players.
Okay.
Because it's a similar thought process, I
Sure.
would say.
Sure.
Do you have 10 guys
Oh yeah.
in mind?
I have 7.
Okay.
I have 10 guys. But if you're in a snake draft and you're outside of the top 7 picks,
Oh, yeah.
may the odds be ever in your favor because you're in trouble. Just like in Hunger Games. Because
I got
you
Justin
7
Jefferson with the
guarantees.
8 pick last year in a
Yeah.
snake draft. Like, it can happen.
It changes every year.
Yeah.
But I was looking at just kind of the talent breaks
Yeah.
and everything. And if you're not in the top 7, you're going to have a problem.
Okay. So tell us your 10 and then kind of in order so we'll know what you mean as far as who your 7 are.
I haven't settled on an order yet.
Gotcha.
So, but if we're talking 10-team league, you've got Saquon Barkley, Jamar, Jefferson, Bijan, Gibbs, Lamb, and St. Brown.
Okay.
Okay. You get outside of that, now you're looking at Derrick Henry. Great. At some point, those wheels are going to fall off.
Yeah. Last year he looked amazing still.
Yeah,
but
yeah. He's going to get touchdowns.
what year is going to be the year where he falls off? You just don't know.
Do you want to have him the year that he falls off?
Yeah. No, you don't.
You don't. Then you have Puka. Okay. Great. They just, who did they just added
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. Okay. How does that impact his?
And he's had trouble staying healthy
Absolutely.
both years.
Malik Neighbors. Okay. Dude, he's a target monster. What quarterback is he going to have? He'll be good.
He'll be good. He proved last year that he can be good with terrible quarterback play. But
we're sitting here talking about the first round.
Yeah.
After St. Brown, what do? You're throwing darts, taking chances on people to stay healthy. We hadn't mentioned Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. How do you rank him this year? There's so much it's hard to say.
Somebody's got.
If he stays healthy, he's deadly. We know that.
If he stays healthy, then you've probably won your league because you're probably getting him in the bottom.
You'll probably get him, or even early second round. Some people don't want to risk taking them.
So that's the whole deal. So McCaffrey, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, everybody after St. Brown has some kind of question mark.
Yeah.
You have to be safe in that first round. And if now some of these guys that I mentioned probably will slide, because maybe someone wants Henry, someone wants McCaffrey, something like that. And you've hit gold. But I've got a couple of snake leagues. I'm praying to the good Lord above I don't get below 7. Because if I do, I'm screwed.
The guys I'm looking at, and some of my order could be shuffled. It's pretty similar to yours, not that shockingly. Some of my order is debatable, but I've got number 1, Jamar R. Pursue diligently. I've got mine ranked, but again, negotiable. Number 2, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Number 3, Bijan Robinson.
Really?
Number 4, Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Number 5, Sedarian DeLeon Lamb.
Okay.
Number 6, I do have Malik Neighbors.
Okay. I wouldn't argue that. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, they're all, 7, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay.
8, Amon St. Brown.
Okay.
And then 9 and 10, kind of like you said, you're reaching a little, but I've got number 9, I've got Puking Nicotine. Number 10, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Because I think, like you said, could I put McConkey over one of them? Sure. Could I put Derrick Henry over them? Sure. That might be better. But if those two stay healthy, you could win your league with McCaffrey and Puka. So
100%. It's not like they're scrubs.
Once you get that far down, it's kind of like late first, early second. Some of those guys are kind of interchangeable.
And that's the whole deal. That's the strategy of a draft, is if you're in those top 7, you're playing it safe.
Right. And I'm in a snake. If I got the 7th pick, I've got the 3rd pick in the second round.
Yeah.
What 2 players can I maybe package and get? Yeah.
You play it safe versus now you're going upside. That upside might hit.
Yes.
And you could win your league 100% that way. I prefer the safe route in those first couple of rounds.
Mm.
And then, say McCaffrey loops back around. I'm picking 7, and I take St. Brown, and McCaffrey somehow lasts.
He lasts until the
round.
3. Yeah.
At that point, you are kind of trying to play both sides. You know he's going to get the ball. Is he going to stay healthy? Well, at that point, he is worth the risk.
At that point, if he's falling that far, it's a good value.
You do it. You do it. 100% you do it.
I look at value. Like, there's guys that I love. I'm a Commanders fan. I love Terry McLaurin. I'm not taking Terry McLaurin in the first round.
Right. Oh, gosh.
If he's there by the middle of the 3rd, okay.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's all about strategy.
Yeah.
A while ago, I mentioned Kenneth Walker III and James Conner. I drafted those guys in like 6 different leagues apiece last year.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with it. They're pretty consistent when they're healthy.
They're great.
But I didn't take either one of them in the first 3 rounds. I was getting them in rounds 4 through 7. So, yeah, it's all about the strategy and all about building your team. And you said something really important earlier. You may not win your league in your first 3 rounds, but you can lose your league
100%.
in your first 3
100%.
rounds. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Absolutely.
Great
Man.
tossing this around with you. Thank all of you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did.
Anytime, man. I love this.
Yeah, absolutely. If you did like the video, please show that by clicking the like button. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It will help enable me to continue to produce this type of content as well as many other types. So for Sam McMahon, for my producing partner, Chris Black, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Hope y'all have a great week and hope I see you again real soon.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.